So the first one is the Gospel of Luke, and the subtitle is The Mission of Jesus and His Followers. This is a course, before I get into describing it, that will be offered to the women's cohort, which is a series of classes that women are learning together. So it will be women only in those courses. These courses are designed to encourage women in developing their skills in ministry leadership. So it's just a word about the cohort. And the intention is never that a group of women would only learn together, but that they would be encouraged to learn together by being in a context together, specifically together exclusively. So that's the vision. There's more to the vision for that, but that's in a nutshell what it is. But really, because Harry assigned me not to talk about the cohort, but to talk about the courses I'm teaching, let's get back to the Gospel of Luke. So I emphasize or subtitle it The Mission of Jesus and His Followers because, of course, the Gospels are really about the mission of Jesus, first and foremost, and then His followers. And in the Gospel of Luke in particular, what's interesting is that the mission of Jesus is both a messianic mission. He was the Son of God. Of course, He came to die for the forgiveness of sins. But Luke in particular wants to tell us that Jesus looks like a prophet. He looks like Moses or Elijah. And guess what else? His followers end up looking like Moses and Elijah. And so there's this way in which it's a prophetic Jesus, prophetic disciples, and then, of course, prophetic church. And so that's one of the distinctives of Luke's gospel. In the course description, this is just an excerpt from that, the course is going to explore the literary, historical, and theological dimensions of the Gospel of Luke, and that's where we're getting into his head. We're going on a journey to travel to understand what was he doing? What was his literary context? What did he mean when he said he was writing history? He was, but what did he mean by that, and how's that different than what we think? And how is his history also theology? And how did he write in a particular genre that's different from ours? So those are some of the things that we deal with. And then we want to look at his distinctive treatment of the story of Jesus and his followers. I've already mentioned one of the things, prophetic Jesus, prophetic church, that's distinctive to Luke. But also, as you see in the picture beside the description I have there, we have the account of the Good Samaritan, picture of that, right? And that happens in the Gospel of Luke, not in other Gospels, but in the Gospel of Luke. So we want to point out what's distinctive and why would Jesus tell this parable to explain what it meant to obey Torah? Because that's what this is about. What does Torah obedience look like? Jesus was a first century Jew, and I actually think that Luke probably was too. We don't know for sure, but I think that, and that's, I mean, it raises your eyebrows, right? But there's more than one way to understand who Luke was and what he was doing. He was very concerned about Torah obedience. And in his concern for Torah obedience, Jesus was teaching people how to obey Torah. And one of the ways he did it was to tell the story of the Good Samaritan who exemplifies God's mercy, which is the goal of Torah obedience. Okay, so that's kind of some of the things that we're going to look at is how does Luke address certain situations, have particular emphases that the other Gospels don't have. And so that's going to require us to engage deeply with the biblical text. We're also going to evaluate methods and different scholarly viewpoints. So I've just mentioned one there, right? I think that there's a good chance that Luke was Jewish. Well, of course, there's others who think that he was non-Jewish. And how do we grapple with these different viewpoints? And of course, this is all with the aim of understanding what it looks like to be a faithful disciple of Jesus as Luke tells that story, right? So we're trying to hear him, hear his perspective, so that we can be more faithful in our context.